apologies for absence. We've got such a bit of flu, so apologies from councillors Freeman, Stratton and Danvers. And seems to flu is also one, particularly isn't here as well. Apologies. Any declarations of interest? None. So the minutes on pages 5 to 7. If we direct record. Sign. Thank you. Any matters arising? None. There are no written questions from the public. There are no written questions from councillors. We have a petition on the land south of Gilden Way.
My name is David Geiss and I represent Churchgate Street Residents Association. Thank you for allowing me to speak. The petition is a response to the council's initial consultation, Have Your Say, on the local plan. It's from a group of residents, mainly in Old Harlow, but others who use the playing field in land south of Gilden Way. The petition was done on a very low-key basis. I hadn't realised until I got details from Lisa Purse that if I got 650 signatures it would have gone to the full council. Note for the future. I've been surprised by the number of people who actually use this land. A whole variety of dog walkers, but local children, works football teams, United Glass, who no longer have playing facilities. They have a works team who play into other firms in UG, they train there. Youth sides, I'm going to present, if it is possible for you, because I think this sums up what Harlow is about, of children playing on there. Not a very good picture. I came to Harlow in 1951 as a 2-year-old. I've lived here ever since. I've trained, schooled, I have my own business, which was established in 1974. I'm passionate about sport. I believe all forms of sport, competitive, non-competitive, team sports are good for the development of children. I've run as a school governor. I trained as an FA coach and took the schools team at district school side. I've been chairman of Harlow Sports Centre Youth for over 20 years, and one of your former employees, Ray Hart, was a resident coach for 30 years, out of which we've produced, as it were, helped the development of 3 lads who played at international level: Matt Holland for Ireland, Luke Young for England, and next year we will have a representative in Euros 2016, Richard Keane, unfortunately for the Republic of Ireland through his grandparents. My 3 sons, we've all enjoyed over the years the open green spaces. I've noticed that obviously that the town has grown old, as probably a lot of us have here, but I'm heartened, and I'm sure you all are, by the number of young families we see growing and witnessed by the demand for school places and future school requirements. I've witnessed the loss of playing fields over this period. Playing fields at Pheasants Croft, Cleveland's, Harlow Sports Centre itself, where we had 3 playing fields, and the Maypole, where there were men and boys clubs used. We need as a town to maintain the green spaces and playing fields for future generations, to encourage youngsters to play out in safe places, not having to cross dangerous and busy roads as we're being threatened with by Essex highways. To me, I say, I'm sorry if I sound over-passionate, but I do feel that you as a council need to take these things on board, and I would urge you to instruct the planners to look elsewhere for development sites.
Absolutely.
Thank you, I can't think of anything else, but if you would just like to see this one awful picture taken, apologise for poor quality.
So first of all, thank you for the petition. I both personally and council generally recognise the importance of green spaces generally, but playing fields in particular. And as is formally recognised in terms of the principles about how we're going to approach the next iteration of the local plan. It's worth just noting briefly that the inclusion of a variety of sites, every possible site in the last consultation in the Harlow 2031 Have Your Say consultation, does not imply that any particular site will be built on. And while sort of formal input of this nature needs to be part of the next formal consultation, that will happen next year, and there will clearly be an opportunity. And I did take the feedback when I came to talk to the Churchgate Street Residents Association about ensuring that the next phase of consultation is more active and what have you. I do absolutely take that on board. It's worth noting that the council has commissioned a particular sports pitch assessment that will be fed into the local plan. And I also note in passing that starting in January, Harlow will be participating as one of only 16 authorities in the country in a specific study with external funding to look at how we can promote sports and physical activity in the town. And those absolutely will be taken into account. So I'll just end briefly at this point by saying that there will be a formal consultation next year on the local plan. The fact that this particular site was included in a wide variety of sites of every possible development site does not imply that it will be allocated for housing in the new one. And obviously I would encourage everyone to participate in that consultation when it happens. I'll leave it there for the moment.
As the local councillor for Old Harlow, it will come as no surprise that I very much support Churchgate Residents Association's petition tonight, along with Councillor Sue Livings and Councillor Jollis and former councillors like Mike Garnett, who all are very concerned about the future sustainability in Old Harlow. I have previously, I know that a number of councillors have played football on the land south of Cllr Way, and it is recognised across the town as a place where sport and recreation takes place. As a group, we have always opposed infilling of these pockets of green space land, and I actually contributed to the Harlow Plan consultation when I realised that a number of green spaces, not just the land south of Cllr Way, but other green spaces in Old Harlow were identified as possibly being redesignated. I think this comes down to, in terms of planning terms, sustainability. Sadly, we've got 1,000 homes that will be built on the land north of Cllr Way. We've got the expansion of Newhall, and we have the enterprise zone. There is an awful lot of development that's happening in Old Harlow, and to increase yet more the spectre of more development in Old Harlow is deeply concerning in terms of sustainability and the adequate infrastructure that would be in place to accommodate such development. I thoroughly oppose, as well as the other Old Harlow councillors, any plans to build on the land south of Cllr Way. As I've said, it's important to preserve green spaces in our town where possible, and this is one site in particular, not just used for football but for other sporting activities that we need to preserve. Thank you.
Not much left out other than that, just to reiterate, there will be a formal consultation starting next year on the local plan, and the recognition that green wedges and other green spaces in Harlow is an important part of both the character of Harlow itself, but also a contribution to life in Harlow is absolutely recognised. Thank you. Right, so moving on to somebody walking through some 7 to 9. The forward plan on pages 8 to 20. Councillor Charles.
Hi. Page 18, it will come as no surprise, Councillor Cllr, I'm asking a question on the local development plan. I've asked it every single cabinet, so I think you'd be shocked if I didn't. My question on the local development plan, obviously there are wide concerns, and I say this every time, about the duty to cooperate. The timescales that the council have set out, I think, need to be more realistic about the urgency in terms of getting a coherent strategy for the local development plan. But what I want to know, and I appreciate that the leader has said that he's committed to efforts to tackle the duty to cooperate. How many meetings in the last quarter of this year has the leader of the council and perhaps the cabinet member for regeneration attended meetings with neighbouring local authorities like Epping and Battlesford to specifically talk about the duty to cooperate? And could you give us an update on those discussions?
In terms of an actual number,
You'll have to write to me.
I'll write you, but I will say we do meet regularly. The last time on Friday just gone, where all the councils, not just Epping Forest, but Broxbourne, East Herts, Essex County, Redbridge, and so on. We separately, I also meet directly with the leaders of Uttlesford and Epping Forest on a regular basis. The last time was last Wednesday, but not just gone Wednesday before that, but at least monthly. In terms of progress on duty to cooperate, I'll be frank, it is a long and tortuous and sometimes not overly productive process. I'm pleased to note that Epping Forest have finally agreed their strategic housing market area assessment housing numbers, which has been a continuous process over many months. But I can assure Councillor Charles that we do meet on a regular basis. I'll write formally the actual number, but it's about monthly at the very least, supplemented by other special meetings, and I'm due to sit down on a slightly less formal basis with Councillor Hazy, who's the leader of East Herts District Council, early in the new year. And I've had at least 2 conversations in the last 7 days directly with her, because clearly East Herts is a significant area potentially of housing development. So I think I'll just conclude, and I'll let others contribute at this point by saying that I have made it absolutely clear to the officers that the current timetable, which is very broadly consultation on preferred options and then examination in public in 2017, will not move any later, regardless of any ongoing conversations about duty to cooperate. And also asked to have a very serious look at the detailed plan about accelerating that process. Now clearly, I just want to make it clear that an acceleration of that process does not mean accelerating or curtailing any consultation process with people up Harlow. But we are getting to the end both of the process and my patience with regard to the duty to cooperate process. Sort of connected but separate to this, one of the conversations I had with Councillor Howard and Ms. Whitbread from Uttlesford and Epping Forest respectively is that separately we're probably going to put together a sort of very high level statement of common interest around a variety of issues which are connected to the local plan, and in particular things like strategic transport infrastructure, road, rail and the like. I'm reasonably confident that a large portion of that will also gain the agreement of the leader of East Herts District Council. And there were constructive conversations in this regard. So I think I'll just end by saying I do genuinely share the frustration with the length of this process. I've made it absolutely clear to officers of Harlow Council that we need to draw a line at that point. I say the fact that Epping Forest, I'm not criticising them, but they have every iteration of the SMART, Strategic Housing Market Area Assessment. They have disputed the numbers of housing until the last iteration. So the meeting we had on Friday, they formally announced they had agreed with the numbers. That is a significant step forward. The duty to cooperate is not a duty to agree. And there will be no doubt some interesting conversations, both formally and informally, as we move into the consultation process. I don't think you want to add anything.
On the forward plan, page 19, the economic development strategy for Harlow is penciled in for November 2016. My concern on this is that we've had the autumn statement, we understand the precise nature of the government's plans in terms of comprehensive spending review over the next Parliament. Given that the economic development strategy is a key plank of our efforts, not just to regenerate the town, but inject some economic development across the board in our community, is there any way that that report could be brought forward? We would consider bringing that report forward, because it's 11 months away. I would have thought that report would have been ready yesterday rather than 11 months away.
The first thing to say is that the government finance settlement arising out of the spending review has not been published. So in terms of the detail of the direct impact on Harlow Council and other councils is not yet known. But I take the general point, I genuinely do. There are clearly a number of sort of interacting things here. So I've talked a little bit about the local plan and the to operate, and that is a significant factor in this. I sort of alluded to this sort of statement of common interest with Ottersford and Epping Forest. There is absolutely a recognition that Harlow is going to be a sort of regional growth hub. It is keeping jobs and what have you, and that's going to be important. And then there's a sort of sideline conversation which we need to get better engaged around about any possible deal. I use the possible around devolution to a Greater Essex Combined Authority. We scheduled a phenomenal briefing in the new year. I really genuinely don't know how that's going to go, but I mentioned that in particular because there are elements of what the aspiration of some councils in Greater Essex, and I'll put it more strongly than that, is that there are basically sort of three key streams to that. So one is around what's labelled connectivity, but really means strategic transport infrastructure. The second is around the skills and work programme, in looking at beefing up how skills funding is directed towards a particular growth sector business, and clearly in Harlow's context, advanced manufacturing and medtech. And the third one is around, again the headline is place shaping, but that's around housing. And now, all of those things also contribute to the economic strategy. I'm acutely aware of both the petition and the motion that's been put by yourself and Councillor Johnson on Crossrail 2. You'll find we're very supportive when we get that at full council next week. And a whole raft of other issues. So I think, I will look at trying to accelerate that. I think in reality there's going to be sort of a staged process that sort of fleshes out details. So statements of intent, sort of aspirations and what have you that will be wrapped in the local plan. But also, some of that's going to draw on some of the detailed work that's been done under the auspices of the Greater Essex Combined Authority in terms of growth plans and what have you. That's a long sort of answer to. I do recognise the importance of it, but it was back out is sort out.
Yeah, I understand what the chairman is saying. All I'm saying to you, John, there is broad consensus on regeneration, economic development, and surely you would agree with me that an economic development strategy is pretty much a fluid document because there's such a large amount of things going on in the town and it's accelerating all of the time. Surely a statement of principle by the council could be done within the next couple of months to get things moving on this. There has been consensus on these matters, and I think that all parties would be interested in contributing to that. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two items. One I think is just a mistake or a mistype, and one a thank you and a question. So the first is on page 13. Regeneration of Slacksbury Hatch and others. I've asked questions on that for numerous times, but this time Catherine's Hatch is included. But on the wards noted, it seems to suggest it's going to affect Summers and Kingsmore Ward. Now, I used to be a councillor for Summers and Kingsmore Ward. I can tell you that Catherine's Hatch isn't there, it's in Great Palm. So I'm assuming that's just a typo and the portfolio holder for regeneration hasn't made a whopping great mistake.
Yeah, true.
Okay, the second item is one that I raised a couple of meetings ago in a question, and it's on page 16, the carbon management plan. So thank you for including it. Our present carbon management plan runs out at the end of this financial year. Can I ask why it took a member of the opposition to flag that it was missing before it was put on the forward work plan?
It was simply mentioned in the forward plan as opposed to not being considered. I certainly know that the opposite concern that Rebecca Parent was acutely aware of it. I had a conversation with her on his being updated. So, you know, I'll put that down to the Minister there rather than a lack of intent to make sure it was updated in the appropriate time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right, are we sort of happy with the to know the forward plan now? Yeah. Right. So item, well, okay, item 9, but labelled item 10 on the agenda, the recent decisions, there are none. Item 11, governance and structure of the local authority trading company. I'll give you more items to that. Just like to amend recommendations D and E and simply to note that the appointments to the LATC board and the parent company board are to be nominated by respective leaders. It doesn't have to be done today, but hopefully in the next few days. We have nominations on that, and that's fine. But apart from that, this has been discussed as part of the cabinet. I've recently talked about the general principles of this in terms of political balance on both the shareholders committee and the respective company boards. I don't particularly want to add anything, but I'm happy to take questions or want to Charles.
The first question on page 21, recommendation F. I appreciate it says that the report recommends that there should be delegated authority to the Chief Executive and leader of the Council to take all necessary steps to create the parent company in the LATC. Given this is such a significant issue for the town, would the leader of the Council and the Chief Executive consider reporting monthly on progress on this, particularly during the key stage of the transition period, because it is such a big issue for the town? I think members across the board would want to know what progress is being made monthly, and if a mechanism could be attached to this report to do that.
Yeah, I just noted that the Chairholder Subcommittee reported there. I think, though, I'd be happy to provide a regular update at Cabinet. It's not quite a monthly, but it's sort of monthly, if that would be acceptable.
All I'm asking for, Chair, is recognition in recommendation F that there will be consultation with members across the board, regular progress updates across the board to all councillors, irrespective of party, on progress to establish the parent company in LATC. I think that needs to be reflected in there. I'd hope that you would want to amend it to do that.
So I would suggest we add an extension at the end of item F that regular updates will be provided to elected members. We'll provide that on a regular basis. In addition to that, there will be other mechanisms for doing this as well. But
it's just it's particularly just for the transition period and the establishment of the LATC, because it's in its infancies and everyone is interested in its establishment. So that was all I wanted. Okay.
We'll get recommendation F amended to
okay. The next question I have. Does the Council have any draft clauses relating to the governance of the parent company LATC that members can see tonight that dictate the memorandum of understanding for governance arrangements for the actual entity, the actual business? Do you have those draft clauses? Because it would form a fundamental part of today's discussion in terms of governance, because we haven't seen.
The simple answer is that the external solicitors that you agreed to appoint a couple of meetings ago are currently working those up with the officers, and they would go to the shareholders subcommittee in due course. So they're not here today, but the solicitors are working those up at the moment.
Tricia, you've got to appreciate on that point that if we're discussing governance arrangements tonight, or you as the Cabinet discussing governance arrangements tonight, I would have thought that draft clauses on governance arrangements would have formed a central part of today's meeting, but okay, I understand that answer well. The next question I have, and I've asked this before, and I wonder if officers or the leader can tell me, There is reference to a senior LATC officer that will form obviously a core part of the board. Can you tell me what the salary band for that senior officer would be? 80 to 90, 90 to 100? Can you give me an indication of the salary band that you're currently looking at? Because then we can understand how senior this individual will be sitting on the board.
Yeah, well, I think the key answer to that is obviously whether Churchgate applies or not to certain individuals within Cllr Harlow. And I think some of the council feels that Churchgate does apply, but there's a process to go through on that. And clearly, obviously, the salary would be of a senior individual, certainly board and director level, if that helps answer the question, Chair.
Well then, perhaps you can help me, Graham. What is the average salary band for a senior director at Harlow Council? Say at the senior management team level, what is the salary band? Because that's public knowledge. If you could just let me know.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to think what my salary band is now, but we're talking around 100k.
These are published.
So the senior officer will be a new director at 100k, sitting inside Harlow Council. Okay, I've got that. So the next question.
It doesn't imply necessarily a new director, as there's a conversation.
But we don't know the answer to that yet. But we don't know the answer to that yet. The next question I have is, what will be the remuneration package offered to the non-executive chairman? Will it exceed the allowance of the leader of the council?
Well, so the SRA is 7,000 something. I've taken a voluntary reduction plus the basic allowance, which is 4,000. So it's about 11,000 or something.
So you don't quite know. So it could be 11,000, could be 6, could be 20,000. We don't.
If I can perhaps come in there, I think clearly the decision for that will be the shareholder subcommittee. That's within the item 1 of its proposed terms of reference. So obviously that has to be determined and go through it. But typically for a public sector non-exec chairman, you're talking around up to 10,000 a year at most, and it can be less.
See, my concern over this is that surely an independent panel should be able to review the pay and circumstances. This is substantial taxpayers' money in Harlow for the senior director for the council and the non-executive chairman. Surely there should be an independent body that looks at this, like looks at the allowances for councillors. I mean, this is an awful lot of public money that's going to be used for these officials.
I think, Chair, what would happen is a report would clearly go to the shareholder subcommittee in terms of obviously some evidence to support what's appropriate level of remuneration for a non-executive chairman. So that's probably we cover that around, Chair. So there will be examples there in terms of what's appropriate for that particular level of post.
The next question is, can I see the job description for the non-executive chairman, the specific responsibilities in terms of governance, not just for the non-executive chairman, but also the senior LATC director? Can I see those responsibilities so we can understand clearly? You've set out the principles in the report, but if you're deciding on governance tonight, we need to see what the exact responsibilities will be for these two senior individuals, because we haven't seen this yet.
I do appreciate that Councillor Charles wants to jump to the end of a process, but what we're talking about here is establishing the structure and principles. We've talked about the governance arrangements, and in particular the shareholder subcommittee that will oversee the definition of these things in conjunction with the LATC board. So there's a development, the transition plan, which will include the development of these items. In terms of financials, the estimates were in financial evaluation, which has been available to Councillor Johns. And we'll work through that process with regular updates to members as we've already agreed.
The next question I have is, do you have a draft code of conduct for councillors who are now going to act, as it says in this report, as directors? Is there a draft code of conduct that we could actually see at some point soon to realise what the actual roles and responsibilities of those councillors will be as directors on the LATC?
Thank you, Joe. We've actually reserved some dates for director training for councillors. So I think it's in January. We've got 2 dates reserved for whoever's been put forward, so they can have proper training as directors, because it's something new for many people. And that will presumably include a sort of code of conduct as well.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few. How many additional local authority trading company trading arms do you intend to launch?
The reason why we set this up in terms of a parent company with a local authority trading company is to anticipate sort of a flexible structure to enable future trading companies to have, to enable the separation of specific functions. So this one's clearly focused on housing and landscape maintenance. But yeah, there isn't a number which says it's going to be 5, 10, 1 to provide the future flexibility.
Can I follow that up, please, Mr. Chairman? Given that you've said the creation in the document, the creation of a parent company would further support transparency, can we be transparent about what sort of services, apart from housing and grounds maintenance, you might want to see under a local authority trading company?
So this particular local authority trading company is absolutely focused on services
Any
around
other?
housing and maintenance. There are no specific plans, but clearly there is a flexibility to make that. But for example, other local authorities have set up development companies for housing. I cite the Gloriana enterprise in Thurrock, but it's to provide future flexibility. That is all.
So just as a final comeback on that one, Mr. Chairman, we're setting up a parent company to be transparent so that we can launch future companies that you currently don't have any plans to, nor can really tell us why you would want to launch. Is that really what you're saying tonight?
And flexibility for future things. In terms of transparency about what this company does, the local authority trading company will be focused solely on housing and landscape maintenance, and I think we define it under those terms.
Yeah, I think we all know what this local authority trading company does, and I don't think we need any further transparency about that. But I really question what you're going to do with a parent body and what other trading arms you're going to create. But that being said, I want to explore with Mr. Chairman. You're creating a very powerful body in the LATC, and yet, with the terms of reference that you're setting out, you are putting yourself as leader of the council to chair the shareholders subcommittee, not putting yourself in charge of the LATC. Do you think that the leader of the council should actually be on the company that you're setting up as the most powerful council that we have?
So I will be chairing the shareholder subcommittee, which is representing the shareholder interests of the council, and will provide the strategic direction for those things. In terms of the day-to-day operations of the local authority trading company, it's about achieving separation between the responsibilities as a director of the local authority trading company and the political leadership of the council, whoever the leader might be at that time. That's what it was about. It's not about, so it is the shareholder subcommittee that contains the power as the representing the shareholder, which is the council. And so we have quite lengthy discussions about how that was the appropriate way to separate those functions. And this is it. So, and in particular, there will be members of the cabinet on the local authority trading company board to maintain that separation between political direction and day-to-day operational directorship.
Can I follow that up then, Mr. Chairman, and ask how you intend to deal with ethical issues going forward, given that you will be chairing the shareholder subcommittee, the chief client of the company, yet someone that you are the group leader of will be your lead member as a director on the company that you are purchasing services from. We've already seen nationally that your new leader expects total commitment from their members of the Labour Party. How will you square that circle with regard to a member of your group maybe not doing what you want, or will you be directing from the shareholder subcommittee?
So the first thing to say is it's not the shareholder subcommittee isn't just representing the customer, it's representing the shareholder of the company, the controlling sole shareholder of the company. So there is clearly a responsibility from that point of view. In terms of responsibility of the directors, in item 10 of this, there's a directors have a statutory duty which will transcend party group membership, and appropriate training will be given in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, there was one more, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
You've moved an amendment to paragraph
D and E, shifting the councillor appointments to the group leaders, does that also apply to paragraph A, although yours are directed by the report, mine are not?
So in the shareholders committee, those specific roles are defined in the report. So
Not two opposition councillors are two of them. They're not defined.
no, indeed.
So I'm asking, if you're going to take a couple of days to
that's
select
fine.
yours,
That's fine. Yeah.
will the opposition be given the same amount of time to
Yes,
select theirs in item A?
Yeah.
Because you didn't cover item A in your
Fine. Okay, that's fine.
amendment.
Any further questions? I'd like to say that I will be formally moving that.
And I'm happy to second that, Chair.
So with the amendments we've identified, so in items A, D and E, to refer to, well, so, yeah, so the point was about amending. Well, sorry, actually, yes, item A doesn't actually need amending, but what the point is the nominations, we have a less of the date that will be fine. But item D and E will be formally amending to reflect that legal nomination, and then the addition in item F about regular reports to members. With those amendments, are we all agreed?
Is there debate?
But,
Is there debate?
that's so down, yeah, sorry, I thought we,
We're going to debate.
yeah.
Okay. Just some brief comments, particularly on the answers to the questions that we've had tonight. It comes as no surprise that the group, Conservative group, is deeply concerned about the establishment of an LACC parent company. What I've heard tonight hasn't really satisfied the group's view on this. When we was at Cllr, we asked about the salary bands and the remuneration package, and we've got some better indication tonight on what the senior executive and what the non-executive chairman is actually going to get in terms of a package. But I would hope that greater independence is sought for reviewing what the actual non-executive chairman is actually going to get. I don't want this done behind closed doors. I think that an independent panel needs to look at this, and it needs to be reviewed with other non-executive chairmen that do the similar job across the country. My chief concern tonight is that we don't even have before us, the Cabinet is here tonight to decide over governance arrangements and the structure of the LATC. We don't even have draft clauses of association as part of the memorandum of understanding for this actual company. We don't even have draft clauses, they're still being written up. They should have been presented tonight, I would have thought, for people to make a more educated decision on the fundamental principles governing this parent company in the LATC. I'm also concerned at the fact that basic steps like job descriptions for a non-executive chairman and the senior LATC director haven't been presented, not even in draft form. We don't even have the sections that would relate to governance. How is the Cabinet going to make a decision on governance arrangements on one of the biggest decisions in this town for a very long time? It doesn't have these this basic information to make an informed decision. It's very concerning, and the Conservative group will have to think about this going forward. One of the major issues the town faces, of course, is landscaping and housing maintenance, and we've always taken the view as an opposition group that we should go to look to the market and open a tendering process to see if there is interest in the market to actually deliver the housing maintenance and landscaping contract. The path we're going down with the LATC, with a lack of basic information when we come to make key decisions, is of chief concern to the opposition. I hope tonight that the Cabinet asks for a pause in making this decision, ask the officers to produce this information urgently, and then we come back again to look at this information, because basic governance statements haven't even been presented tonight.
This is the next step in a process, and the arguments that you make are sort of well rehearsed. They have been at Cabinet meetings, at the calling committee, and clearly there's a desire to delay or derail this process. This is just the next step in that process. This is about setting out the structure, and the details will be part of the transition plan. I know he wants to get to the end of the process before he makes a decision at the beginning of the process, but you know, we could be here for several years. if we talk approach that you're suggesting. This is a logical, rational process to move down this track. And this is the next step, which is establishing the basic structure, and then the detail under the direction of the Cabinet Subcommittee, the Shareholders Subcommittee. We'll move that forward as part of the transition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to make it very clear, the Conservative group on this council has no desire to delay or derail the implementation of really important services to the members of our public and taxpayers. We want to make sure that Harlow Council taxpayers get the very best. We want to make sure that Harlow Council tenants get the very best. I'm horrified to see some of the stories at the moment of things that are going on with our householders. And what we've always tried to do is to make sure that, as an opposition, we are a critical friend in the processes that the administration take forward. Sadly, the administration seems to think that every time we question deeply, we're just being obstinate or a pain or trying to wind you up. We're not. We're trying to make sure that checks and balances are put in place. We're trying to make sure that even if not all of your cabinet are reading all of the papers, we are reading the papers, and we're making sure we're asking the questions that need to be asked. That is part of the democratic process. I will not apologise for my members doing their job and asking detailed, searching questions. That being said, I share a number of the concerns that Councillor Charles has raised tonight. I have often felt during this process that cart was being put before horse, and that we were jumping ahead faster than we knew the answers to the previous questions. I still feel like that tonight, Mr. Chairman. I feel like that around the idea of a parent company, where we're being told it's being created for transparency, because at some point in the undetermined future there's a possibility that we might decide to possibly launch a second company, but we don't know what for, we don't know why or when. But for transparency, we're going to have a parent company. It seems like excessive bureaucracy, it seems like excessive regulation. And I'm just concerned, Mr. Chairman, that we are getting this wrong. And I share Councillor Charles's concerns that perhaps we should pause a little bit longer, and perhaps we should have actually done what we said in the beginning and gone out to the market and tested for another company to come in and do this properly, rather than try and set up a company ourselves when we ourselves have no knowledge of how to set up a company as a group of councillors. We have no expertise in this area, and we're going to have to buy that expertise in. That being said, Mr. Chairman, as I've said, we are a responsible opposition, and should your Cabinet tonight decide to go forward, I've struggled with whether I should name members to the board of the LATC and the parent company and the shareholder subcommittee. It would be quite easy for me to say, I don't agree with you, I don't agree with what you're doing, and I'm not going to sit on your boards. I think that would be a desertion of a true opposition's role in the good governance of the town and the good governance of the services that we provide to our paying public. So I tell you now, if you go ahead and create these boards, we will put members forward for the positions that you've allocated to us. However, that's not to say that in putting forward those members, we want that to be seen as taking agreement with what you're doing. We still have fundamental concerns with the direction of travel, we have fundamental concerns with the way that this has been managed, and we have fundamental concerns with the way it continues to be managed going forward. But if you make the decision to go forward with this tonight, Mr. Chairman, the opposition will continue to do its bit and will continue to act as a critical friend of your decisions.
So first of all, I have absolutely no problem with the questioning, and which is why I exercise considerable latitude beyond what I'm formally required to do as Chair of Cabinet in allowing questioning and debate on these subjects. That has always been my approach and will continue to be so. In terms of the desire to go out to the market, that was covered by an independent evaluation. We've had this debate before about the relative costs, and this represents the best value for money in terms of the total cost of ownership of delivering these services. And all the things you talked about in terms of provision for the salary bands and what have you are in the financial evaluation which you have had sight of, and indeed we have some debate on. Anybody else want to make a contribution? Right, so formally I will move this second to so with the, I'll just repeat for the benefit of clarity, with the amendments to D and E, about the nominations to the respective boards, and the addition to F in terms of regular reporting to elected members. Are we agreed? Moving on to item 12, the Joint Finance and Performance Report on pages 28 to 65. I just want to make some brief introductory remarks. Just bear with me a second. So just in terms of some brief highlights, I just point out that, again, strong financial control, a relatively small proportion underspend. So that strong financial control continues, and that is very welcome, and I would certainly thank officers for that continued diligence. I'd also like to just highlight the staff survey on page 65, which continues the upward trend in satisfaction, and this is in terms of the highest it's ever been since regular annual staff surveys have been completed. Generally a good performance. I do note the complaints. The service improvement plan has been implemented, but due to the lag in indications, that's not quite reflected yet in the results. We'll leave that for the moment for introductory remarks. I'm sure there are going to be questions. So, should we start? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few. First of all, the £59,000 saving that you've made this year by charging residents for the lights all year, but only switching them on from October. Are you now willing to give that money back to the residents of the town?
So, while it is clearly deeply regrettable that agreement was not reached earlier, I'm not going to labour why that happened. What we have said is in the report that underspend for this year will be put in a specific reserve because we're entering into a long-term deal. This is not just sort of a one-off, which is why deals have not been done actually with other councils in Essex, because they didn't openly and transparently say how we're going to fund it in a sustainable and long-term way. So this is a 3-year plus deal, and that underspend will be put in a specific reserve to hedge against future possible energy price increases. And yet, over the period, it will be spent on streetlights and nothing else.
So that's a long way of saying no.
I don't really want to repeat what I've just said, but
it's no. Yeah. Okay. Page 52, Mr. Chairman. Processing times for housing benefit and/or council tax benefit, which continue to be well above our Harlow target. The practical steps being taken. We were told that there was a practical step in 14-15, which is quite some time ago now. I'm looking for more practical steps that are being taken at the moment. You talked about outcomes of a review being considered, and once implemented should deliver improved performance. Can you please tell me, when did the review take place, when did the review report, and what are the timelines for implementation of that improved performance?
The review of the Revenue and Benefits team has been carried out over the past 12 months. The performance and process review is currently being finalised. We've completed a review on the benefits area, and we're just coming to the conclusion of the review on the revenues area, and the recommendations from those two independent reviews will be implemented as we lead into the final quarter of this financial year.
Mr. Chairman, do you really believe that a year-long review followed by a 6-month implementation period from now is really being very responsive to our customers' needs?
That there are clearly issues that will need to be addressed. I think I would also add that this area is likely to change significantly with the introduction of universal credit, which we need to be taken into account.
Can I take it to page 56, please, Mr. Chairman? Customer complaints. Although it's noted the volume of complaints has reduced from the same period last year, we are considering missing our target compared to last year for the number of complaints responded to within the council's target. The practical steps being taken says that there's a new reporting system implemented. Can the opposition members have any oversight on that new steps that are being taken to solve the problems in Contact Harlow?
Chair, if I can. Yes, there is a weekly report that's now produced by the Customer Services Officer. It goes out to respective heads of service and to me as Chief Operating Officer. That flags up where we are in stage 1s, 2s and 3s and highlights whether or not they are getting close to the period where they're due to be responded by in accordance with the timescales set by the Council. So it's a flagging system that wasn't around before. There's been software enhancement done internally to allow that to happen. So it now means that the people responsible for completing the complaints are given forewarning of those that are coming up to their expiry date.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that far better now. And I think that's it for me.
Anybody else want to make a contribution? So I'd like to move the recommendations A to C on page 28.
Full second that, Chair.
Sorry, is there any sort of contribution in terms of debate? I'll read the recommendations on page C, not page 28. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is the HRA budget, which I will move and second. Again, I don't particularly quite clear in the report. Just note that there's been, again, good line of control. Are there any questions? Any other contributions? So, like that, are we agreed on the recommendations A and B on page 66? Great. Then moving on to the trackable programs on page 75. I will move that.
Second, Chair.
I think really just a couple of things to note here. I mean, the first is that the council has invested over £100 million in capital programmes in areas like modernisation programme in the last 45 years. Clearly, our ability to undertake capital programmes will be significantly impacted by the changes in rent levels and the impact on the HRA business plan will be due in January. Got any questions? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, one comment. Paragraph 6 and the table talks about the carryovers, shall we say, of work. I won't say slippage. Not for tonight, because obviously there are going to be some very detailed explanations, but could someone write to me maybe with the details of why some of those schemes have slipped? Particularly, I'm just concerned that, you know, as members, we see the figures, we see the large figures, but what we may not always see is the reasons behind why some of those programmes have slipped into the following year. And I just want to make sure that we're giving proper oversight to not allowing too many of those to slip for the wrong reasons.
Okay, I'll make sure we get a response to you.
The comment you want to set now, merely to praise the success, paragraph 7. Right to buy looks like we'll be exceeding the number of sales that we've assumed this year. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the right to buy. I think house ownership is one of the most freeing pieces of legislation that this country's ever seen.
I'm afraid, Councillor, I can't leave that remark uncommented on. The right to buy and the extension of right to buy to housing associations, apart from a significant impact on community cohesion, clearly dilutes social housing stock. It is true that a significant proportion of housing benefit gets paid directly to private landlords, many of which stock has been bought, these ex-council stock bought through right to buy. The impact on the extension of right to buy to housing associations in terms of forcing council to sell their most expensive properties will clearly have an impact, an additional impact. This is one of many measures which is basically attacking affordability and attacking social housing. We mentioned the rent reduction, which jeopardises our ability to both repay the loan of £209 million that this council took out from the government to buy the properties from the government that have been paid for over many times. And I note that our MP has repeated the myth that council housing is subsidised by the taxpayer, which is not only untrue, by law it is not possible to be true because the HRA is repaid. I could go on at some length on this subject, but I will refrain from doing so. Have you got any further? Thank you. So, skip back. So it's the recommendations on page 75, A to C. Are we agreed? Right. Moving on to the Treasury Management Strategy. So the report starts on page 89. Are there any questions or comments?
Paragraph 27 in the graph contained therein the performance yield. I just say, I think it needs noting every time this comes that our in-house finance team do a very good job in what is a very difficult market at the moment. And time and again, I am impressed by the way that they manage our money and the way they get a considerable return, often beating some very professional market leaders in the amount of money they get in return to us. So from the Consider Group, well done to those officers concerned.
So the recommendation on page 89, sorry, I will move this to a second.
I'll forward seconded, Chair.
But no further questions or contributions, are we agreed that the Freeman report is noted to refer to full council for approval? Agreed. Right, so moving on to...
Move, Chair. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
So item 16, the interim review of polling districts and polling places on pages 100 to 103. Being moved by Councillor Clark. And I'm happy to second Katie as well. Are there any questions or comments?
Obviously, declaring an interest here as a Church Langley councillor for the issue over the Henry Moore School. I'm glad in some ways that the school has been retained as a polling place, and I understand the concern around the recent Electoral Commission's review and the appeals about the size of polling places. I know there are many people in that part of Church Langley that object to the school being used because the school aren't willing to work with us and other politicians around making sure they plan for the election. The head teacher and the board of governors there sadly seem to make a thing of closing the school down as a special event when other schools around the town seem to make one of their training days the day of the election. They know when the elections are coming and they plan for it. Consequently, the school feels that it's got the right, it has got the right to lock the front gates, to not allow access to parking, which consequently means a very long and arduous walk, particularly for those members of the community that are disabled or infirm. And I have had, on occasion, in my role as election agent, to help an elderly lady who insisted that she was never going to vote by post because she always liked to put her X in the box. She always liked the feeling of actually going down and doing her civic responsibility, her civic duty of voting herself. But physically couldn't make it all the way round the tortuous path that the school had laid out to get to the far extreme of the school where the polling station was. And if anything, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, if all of us could try and put pressure on people connected with that school as much as possible, and I'm certainly doing that via Essex County Council and my contacts there, to make the school try and be as open and as accessible as possible for members of our community on election day, that would be really well received. And whilst I'm talking about the polling districts, can I just say how well I thought and it was in the comments that the Conservative group placed back into the review, how well we thought Harlow Museum worked as a polling station for Mark Hall Ward. I'm very pleased to see that that will no longer be temporary, but will therefore be the polling place going forward.
Declaring the interest of a council for the department head, I welcome the reintroduction of what used to be the Rutland Adult Gate back in, because it now provides a good coverage across quite a long ward, not a big ward. But apart from that, so are we? Just now, I know that Councillor Johnson did specifically ask for this interim review when this was raised some time ago, and I'm pleased to see that it has been done. And I know there were some outstanding issues with Henry Moore and the Captain between us, so it's going to continue dialogues around accessibility in that particular area.
Good to hear, Mr. Chairman.
Right, so the recommendation on page 100, recommendation A, which is about the three planning districts, are we agreed?
Agreed.
Right, moving on to item 17, the stock conditions survey.
Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation on page 104.
And I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Are there any comments, questions? No. So, controversial. So, recommendation on page 104, are we agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So, moving on to item 18, which is the local development order.
Yes, Chair, I'd be happy to move the recommendation, but I would like to make a slight adjustment to section A of the recommendation by deleting the first half of the sentence, which says, subject to no adverse comments being received by close of the statutory consultation period, 10th of December. So actually the recommendation should start, Cabinet recommends.
Charles.
Just very briefly, Chair, I welcome the local development order and the plans to accommodate the increased size of the data centre. Everyone fully in support of investment and any steps to help increase the opportunities at the enterprise zone. I also welcome the fact that this is going to be the control measure for the Maypole cottages to understand the acoustics and the noise levels there. That will come with some relief to residents there who have spoken to me about some of their concerns, although they welcome what's happening there, some of their concerns about the noise levels. So I welcome that too.
Just to clarify, Chair, we have had consultation with those people individually. We've had a conversation with them, we understand what their issues are, and actually we have taken steps to mitigate those concerns, and I feel at the moment they're on board with us.
They are.
So I'd like to formally second, any further contributions? Sorry, I'd like to formally second that. So are we agreed with the recommendations on page 108, A and B? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to the referral from scrutiny around payday loans.
Happy to move this item, Chair.
Seconded.
Are there any questions or comments? I'd just like to make a brief comment here. I mean, clearly, there are a significant number of payday loan companies in Harlow, and I can't quite recall the specifics, but we are, per head of population, have a very high proportion of payday loans. I can't remember if it's number 1 in the country or number 3 in the country. It's that sort of order. And clearly, this is one of the measures about addressing that. And it would be remiss of me, while talking about payday loan companies, not to mention Harlow Save, it's a credit union, which I personally agree to, and I recommend everyone else to do so.
Can I just reinforce what you said there, Mr. Chairman? And I know we're being videoed and this is being reported, so for any members of the public out there that do find themselves thinking this Christmas, that they may need some financial assistance, I would far prefer they sort a credit union out than one of these companies, and I think that goes for all members from all sides here. So very much welcome this report.
Any further contributions? So in that case, the recommendations on report. So the recommendation on page 200. from yeah, so if the recommendations, on page 206, I'm going to propose that. I mean, the recommendation is that when it's all in the budget, we take into account the different statements, which clearly we will be doing so. I don't know if there are any further questions or comments on that.
So, Chair, I'd like to second the recommendation.
But if there are no further contributions, then I will agree the recommendation on page 206.
Agree.
Thank you. And then the further recommendation from the Cabinet Overview Group, which is on page 215, which is recommendation to do with the review of the local transport support recommendations A and B. So I guess this should read that this is recommended to council. Council decision. So we can amend the recommendation of A, so before A, that is recommended to council. Are there any questions, comments? No. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm second that.
Okay, right, so the recommendations A and B on page 215 will agree. That then is all the referrals from committees. Remaining item 20, which is noting the minutes of Cabinet Overview, the Highways Panel, Housing Standards Board, and the Safety Committee. I'll take these on block. Are there any questions or comments about them? These noting the minutes.
Noted.
Okay, right, so noted. Well, there have been no matters of urgent business. This meeting is concluded.